Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, Maseches Nazir Daf Nun Daled. Being that the next two Dafim are quite small, perhaps we'll just pair them together. So let's combine Nun Daled and Nun Hey into one Shir. So we start on Nun Daled Amid Aleph, around halfway down, 12 lines from the top at the two dots. This is a reference back to the Mishnah on Mem Tesamid Beis. A Nazir became Tamei. He must receive the Hazah of the Paraduma on day 3, on day 7. On day 7 he's Toivel, he has the head of Shemesh, and sundown. Next day he brings Karbanos, and then he starts counting his Nazirus all over again. Now, the last line of that Mishnah reads like this. When does he begin counting fresh? Elachi Yitar, he needs to become Tahar. Umavias Karbanos and bring your Karbanos. Question. We had a machlekes way back when between Rabbi Lezer and the Chachamim. At what point may a Nazir start counting again? Rabbi Lezer says, on day 7, V'kidash es reishai bayamahu, last day of Tahara, day 7. Chachamim maintain, bayamahu is referring to the day of Karbanos. He must wait an extra day. It's day 8, which allows him to start recounting. So the question is, who's speaking in our Mishnah? You can't begin counting until you're Tahar and bring Karbanos. Iboilu. Hodiktani. Achi Yitar. When the Mishnah refers to Tahara, which day is it? B'shvi'ikoi, day 7. Ada Abed Her of Shemesh, some take out these words. So you can start counting on day 7. Umani, who's speaking, whose Shita is reflected in our Mishnah. This is Rabbi Lezer, right? Rabbi Lezer, who allows you to start counting on day 7. Oidilma, or perhaps B'shvi'ikoi. The Mishnah is referring to day 8. Umayachi Yitar, when the Mishnah says, wait until you're Tahar, it means the full process, until you're totally done. Achi, you have a Karbanos, until you bring even the Karbanos. Day 8. Umani Rabbanani, this is Rabbanan speaking, that he must wait until day 8. So which way is it? Tashma, Miditani Seifa. Let's bring it right from the second part of this Mishnah, which is actually the Mishnah coming up soon on our daf, presenting cases which are not as severe as the first Mishnah. They don't require a cancellation of all days which were kept until then. Maschil u'mayne miyan. So, he's tummy, he gets tar, right away you start counting fresh. So he touched something which made him tummy, but not the same level of tumah, which requires a redo of the whole Nazirus. We're going to see that, we're going to see soon in the Mishnah. So you must wait until he's tar, and then you start counting right then. So the Mishnah mentions the word miyad, which indicates that you start on day 7, you become tar, right away you resume the Nazirus. You don't have to wait until day 8. Ha Reisha. Apparently, when the Reisha speaks about having to wait until you're tar and bring the Karbanos, it's not miyad. My achi tar. What does the Mishnah mean? Then he must wait until he's tar, not miyad, on day 7. Achi have a Karbanos. In that case, since Karbanos are required, he must wait until the Karbanos are brought, until the day of Karbanos, until day 8. Umani Rabbanani, and that's Rabbanon speaking, the Amri, Nazirus the Tahara, Achmini lo Chayla. In fact, Rabbanon hold that you can only start the new Nazirus on day 8. So here comes that Mishnah. In contrast to the Mishnah on Memtes, which gave us a list of tumos on which a Nazir is Megalayach, right, a more profound type of tumah, more mace related. It relates directly to the mace, as opposed to these tumos, even though they're also coming from tumas mace, but they're not sort of at the source. They're not as severe, or perhaps they're only the Rabbanan, as we're going to see. So regarding these tumah encounters, we don't say the Nazir cancels his Nazirus and requires a taglachas. He's considered tumah to a certain extent, so he must wait until the tumah is gone and then resume the Nazirus. Avalas schachis, lashon of schach, hovering. So you have a tree with branches, and there's some tumah beneath one of the branches, and the branches aren't sizable enough to be considered a proper oyel. So although there's a tumah midrabban, but it's not considered on the same level as those tumas. Va'prois. So these are stones protruding from a stone fence, and there's tumah beneath one of them. So a person walks beneath those stones, perhaps he encountered the tumah, but since it occurred out in the street, in the Rishus Harabim, public domain, the halach is the suffix tumah b'Rishus Harabim is really tar. But the Rabbanan in this case were matamihim, but again it doesn't have the same level as the previous Mishnah. Upreisa pras. This is a field which featured a grave, and it was sort of plowed over. But the Rabbanan, there's a concern that the tumah has spread throughout the area. So pras is a lashon of breakage, that there's some, chips and breakage material throughout the area. So with the Rabbanan, it's called tamei. Ve'eretz amim. This is anywhere outside Eretz Yisrael. Chachamim will geyser tumah. Several reasons were given, because of the Meisei Mabul, because of the Jewish Mason, which are buried all over. So Chachamim will geyser tumah al Eretz amim. Chacham did not want us to leave Eretz Yisrael, so there's a tumah upon leaving Eretz Yisrael. This tumah does not have the same ramification. V'hagoyel v'hadoifik, there's a machlekes how to learn this. So Rashi in Ksubas learns goyel is the actual lid over the aron, over the coffin, doifik on the sides. Rabbi Matam learns differently. He learns that goyel is the matseva, the monument, and doifik are the support of the matseva. Urevi is dam, v'oil v'rei v'atzamis. So if the Nazir encounters a revius halug of dam, or he hovers over a roiva hakav, a quarter hakav of bones, so this will not have the same result as the previous Mishnah. V'kelim hanoigim b'meis. He touched a kli, a utensil which touched a mace. So again, he's encountering some degree of tumas mace, but it's not at the source, it's not at the highest level. And now we have a mitzora. So he was a Nazir, and suddenly he became a mitzora. He found a nega. Ubemei sifra, ubemei gomri. So he went through the whole process, the nega spread, and he was sort of condemned, so to speak, to the tzaras status. He became an absolute mitzora, mei gomri. He was a mitzora muchlat. He must stay outside the city, etc. So those days, b'mei gomri, or b'mei safrei. After he's done, he's on his way back into town, he's going through the purification process, he counts 7 days. So those days of tzaras, although he's tamei, still al elu ein hanazir megaleach, they do not trigger a redo of the nazirus. He doesn't have to reshave and etc. Umaze b'shlishi b'shvi. So in the case of the tumas mace here, he'll get the azar of the paraduma on the 3rd and 7th day, of course. But still, ve'ein sheisher sakoidmin, it will not cancel all days previously counted towards the nazirus. He just goes right back to the nazirus, picks up where he left off. The carbon, there's no chiv carbon. Be'emes amru, there's an accepted halacha that when it comes to yimei hazav ve'hazava, if a nazir became a zav, or she became a zava, v'yimei hezgerush matzera, or a nazir encounters a nega blotch, unsure as to the status, they lock him up in confinement, right? They quarantine him. So all those experiences, ziva and yimei hesker, they do not interfere at all. Listen to this. Even those days will sort of count towards the nazirus. There was no interruption whatsoever. So we have 3 levels. We have the more severe form of tumah encounters discussed in the previous Mishnah, which totally cancel everything. You have to restart everything after you bring the teglachas and the karbanis. In this Mishnah, we have several tumah encounters which are sort of in between. He must put a pause on the nazirus, but he can resume as soon as he's ready. And we have the 3rd level, zav, zav, and hesker. It's as though nothing happened, just keep on going. The first item in the Mishnah are the schachis. What are these schachis? Let's describe them. Ilan hamesach al haaretz, a tree hovering over the ground, and there's tumah there. It's only a tumah of the Rabban. Uprois hayotzis min hageder, that's the stones protruding from the fence, being that it's a suffix tumah encounter in Rishus Harabim min hataretz tar, and therefore it doesn't affect the nazir. Ve'eretz amim. Okay, outside Eretz Yisrael has a tumah. Question: Iboilu, the Bnei Yeshiva wanted to know, to what extent is Eretz Amim tamei? Eretz Amim mishum aviru gazru aleh. When a person, flies through Chutz La'aretz, enters the Chutz La'aretz airspace, is he tummy because the airspace is tummy? Or perhaps there is no specific tumah on airspace of Eretz Amim. Rather, the reason why he's tummy when he encounters Tumas Eretz Amim airspace is simply because of the gush, the glob of earth down below. Meaning, there's a chashash, there's a concern about a mace down below, and when he enters the airspace of Eretz Amim, we're concerned that he hovered above the mace below. So it's your standard tumas oil, which requires hazah of the paraduma, etc., etc. But if there's a mafsik, a chatzitza, something, a barrier which separates the person from the ground below, he would be tar in this case, despite the fact that he enters the airspace of Eretz Amim. But on the other tzad, it would be the avir itself is tummy. Airspace of Eretz Amim is tummy, irrespective of whether he hovered over the ground below. Chachamim applied a tumah throughout Eretz Amim. The ground, the airspace, it doesn't matter. So which way is it? Tashma. The Mishnah spoke about Eretz Amim, and the Mishnah says, what happens? U'mazeh b'shlishi b'shvi. That as a result of entering Eretz Amim, he needs to be sprinkled upon with the paraduma water on the third and the seventh day, which sounds pretty much like we're worried about a mace, a tumas mace encounter. Now, if you're going to tell me that the tumas Eretz Amim was not because of the mace aspect, meaning we did not consider Eretz Amim as though it's tumas mace. Chachamim gave it its own tumah, but not to the extent of tumas mace. And in fact, even entering airspace of Eretz Amim is mitamayu, despite the fact that you haven't even hovered above the earth. It's a new type of tumah. Tumah midrabanan of Eretz Amim. If that's the case, if the airspace is tummy, unrelated to mace below, hazah lamli. So if one walks into the Eretz Amim, it's unrelated to tumas mace. It's just a new tumah. Why would he get the hazah, the paraduma? So it's pretty clear that the gzeira of the Eretz Amim is not because the Chachamim wanted to discourage us from leaving Eretz Yisrael. It's because the land is considered full of mason. In which case, he must get the hazah on shlishi v'shvi. Says the Gemara, no, perhaps there's no right. Perhaps the tumah of Eretz Amim is not because of tumas mace. It's a new tumah to discourage leaving Eretz Yisrael. And the airspace itself is aser, unrelated to tumas mace below. The Mishnah speaks about hazah on shlishi v'shvi. It's going in the other cases in the Mishnah, tumas mace cases, but not on the Eretz Amim, which doesn't require paraduma. I'll prove to you, in fact, that the hazah is not a reference to all cases. Look at the case in the Mishnah of the kalim. The kalim hanoigim b'mace. A nazir touched the kli, which touched the mace. Hani kalim b'nei hazah inun. Why would a nazir require hazah paraduma on account of touching a kli which touched the mace? That's a lower level of tumah which doesn't trigger, which doesn't require the same treatment. Hani kalim b'nei hazah inun ela shma mina ashara. So it's clear that the directive of the hazah shlishi b'shvi mentioned in the Mishnah is not a reference to all cases, and perhaps it's not a reference to Eretz Amim either because it wasn't related to tumas mace. Leimu katanai, perhaps this very question of how to quantify the tumas Eretz Amim, whether it's on account of tumas mace or on account of a new din d'Rabbanan, is perhaps based on a machlekes Tanaim. Hanichnas l'Eretz Amim b'shida teva v'migdal. Okay, this fellow entered Eretz Amim in a container, kind of a large-sized box, which made a barrier between himself and the ground below. So he's in the airspace, but not really encountering any possible tumas mace. What happens? Do we apply the tumah or not? Rabbi mitame, yes, we do. Rabbi Yehuda mitar. My love, perhaps. Their machlekes is hinging on our discussion. Rabbi Sava Mishmavir. According to Rabbi, Tumas Eretz Amim is unrelated to Tumas Meis. So the airspace itself is mitame, irrespective of whether you're directly over the ground or in a box. For Rabbi Yehuda Sava Mishum Gusha, no. The Isra is because of, the Tumah is because of Tumas Meis below, and if he's protected, he's safe. So it's a machlekes Tanai. No, says the Gemara, perhaps we can explain the machlekes in a way where both will hold, one way or the other. It doesn't depend on this question. Loi, the kuli alma mishim gusha. Perhaps everybody considers tumas eretz amim based on the gush, on the oil, on the tumas meis aspect. Umar savar, oil zarok shmei oil. Rabbi Yesi, who says that he's tar, that's because a flying box, an unstable container, is still called an oil. So speaking about a large-sized container, which is not mekabel tumah, it's called kli ha'asal anachas. It's meant to stay stationary. It's not a kli which is like a utensil. It has the din of an oil. It's large enough for that. Problem is it's mobile. It's on the move. Oil zarek. It's being thrown about. Still, it's called an oil, and it protects you from the tumah below. And Taisus explains, if it's really flying, perhaps not. But here it's being carried by a person who's walking on the ground, by an animal who's walking on the ground. So that gives it stability. That gives it a Shem Oyel. That's Rabbi Yossi Shita. Omar Savalosh Oyel. Rabbi disagrees. Even in this type of case, it's not called a proper protection. It doesn't create its own domain, and it's not going to protect you from the ground below. Ve'atanya, as we find in the following brisa, we find this distinction between just a flying container, which is not an oil, and something with some stability being carried by somebody on the ground, which perhaps is considered an oil. We find this in the brisa in the name of Rabbi Yehuda himself. Rabbi Yehuda Imer, Teva Shimale Kelim. You have a chest full of utensils. V'zarka pnei mace b'oil, and it's thrown over the mace, tossed over the mace. It's ungrounded, and therefore it's tmeya. Anything in it is tamei. Doesn't present as an oil. But if it was stationary, if it was being carried by a person walking on the ground, or by an animal with feet on the ground, that gives it stability. That gives it permanence, so to speak. It gives it presence, and it creates its own area, its own domain, and anything within it is protected from the oil mace. Okay, so that's one pshat. Again, we had a fellow entering Eretz Amim inside a box. Rabbi says Tami, Rabbi Yesi, Rabbi Yehuda says Tar. First we thought it depends on that Shaila of Avir or Gush. No, everybody agrees. The Tumah Eretz Amim is rooted in Tumas oil. Question is this oil or not? According to Kirsan Taisus, we go to Viboy Semos. We switch it to Viboy Sema. Another pshat in this machlekes will be like this: the Kuli Alma Mishmavir. Perhaps everybody, Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda, subscribe to Tumas Aver. That's the basis of Eretz Amim. The airspace itself is Metami. Question is, why in this case of a box is he protected? He's in the airspace. I'm not talking about the air itself. It doesn't matter. If he's in the airspace, even if he's in a sealed box, he's in the airspace. The answer is like this. Look, sitting in a box in this manner is something very uncommon. Like God's Rabbanah does not apply an Xer in this case. They speak about common cases, not unusual cases. Omar Sava, Rabbi holds, even though it's not a common case, still the Xer was applied in his tummy. God's Rabbanah. Vatanya, as we find in the following brisa, that in fact there's a difference between a common scenario and an uncommon scenario regarding Tumas Eretz Am. Hanichnas l'eretz amim b'shida teva migdal. Tar. If he enters in this unusual manner, he's tar. This is Rabbi Yehuda speaking. But if it's in a usual manner, b'karan, in a wagon, a bisfina, a boat, a biskaria, a large ship with a tall mast. These are common modes of transport. Tell me. So clearly, there's a distinction between something which is common and uncommon. And this supports our pshat in the machlekes. So again, according to this pshat, everybody agrees it's tumas aver. So theoretically, sitting inside a box wouldn't help you. So why is Rabbi Yehuda mitar? Because it's not shchiach. In fact, we find in the Brayz that if he does it in a shchiach manner, a karan, a sfina, and a skaria, all agree that he's tamei. One final pshat. Everybody works with the gush factor. Tumas eretz amim is based on tumas oyel. So now that he's in a shida and teva migdal, he's really protected, because everybody agrees this type of arrangement protects you. Even though it's moving, it's an oil zarek, everybody agrees it's an oil, it protects you. So why is Rabbi Matami? Question is whether we are concerned that perhaps he will sort of peek out of his box. After a while, get claustrophobic and stop peeking out. And he'll lean out completely, his head, most of his body, in which case he'll be hovering over the street, over the Eretz Amim, to Masayil. That's the machlekes. Are we chayshish for that or not? And Rabbi Yehuda will hold, no. It's uncomfortable. Not so feasible to lean out of this box. So we're not chayshish for that. But in the case of a ship or a wagon, right, the brisa before, that facilitates, leaning out. It's pretty easy to lean out of it. So in that case, we are chayshish. V'hatanya, as we find in the brisa, Rabbi Yehuda Imer, hanichnas l'eretz amim b'shida teva migdal tar, right? Unless he leans out, mostly leans out, and then he's tamei. Apparently, that's the factor here. That is the determining factor. Are we chayshish for leaning out or not? So in these cases, Rabbi Yehuda says, well, it's not common to lean out of the shida teva migdal. He'll fall. It's not something we're worried about, as opposed to the karoin, the sfina, and the skaria, where it's pretty common to lean over. It's a large, arrangement there. It's more convenient. It's easier. It's more realistic that he will lean over. In that case, we are chayshish and we are metamim. Interestingly enough, it would seem that even if the Tumah Eretz Amim is based on Tumas oil, we're concerned that he might lean over the Afar of Eretz Amim, which contains Mesim, it would seem from the Gemara it's only applicable when there's Roishay or Rubai over the Gush. You see, typically, even a finger or even a hand over a mace is Matama the person, but here it's different. Taisus points this out because after all it was Xera. The Rabbanan, and they only gave it Tumah in this type of case when you find yourself completely or mostly over the Eretz Amim. Okay, so in conclusion, we learned about Tumas Eretz Amim, which is really based on the Gemara and Shabbos. We have many different, stages to this takana, to this gzera. Take a look in, if you want a real comprehensive presentation, it's the Gemara Shabbos Daf Tezvav. So ultimately, the last and final stage was, in fact, an application, a Tumah application to the earth and the Avir, the airspace as well. Question is, what is what was the background? What's the basis for this entire tumah? Is it because it was simply concerned about mason buried throughout the world, or is it a less pronounced type of tumah? It's more a tumah d'Rabbanan because of we're meant to be in Eretz Yisrael and I'm meant to roam around the world. So we have two different ways of looking at it. What would be the nafkamina? Nafkamina is if you know for sure you're not over the land, you're in an airplane. Perhaps that's really an oil zarak, or let's say a real oil, which protects you from the ground. So in terms of oil, you're not exposed. In terms of airspace, you're still in the airspace of Eretz Amim. So we had that question. And we had a machlekes tanoim. In the case of a person entering with a shida teva migdal, Rabbi says tami, Rabbi Yehuda says tar. First we thought it depends on this machlekes, on this question. And then we gave three other pshatim to the machlekes, which made it unrelated to our shaila. Everybody can hold one way or the other and still have a machlekes. Fine. Umaschel umayna miyad. So let's go back to the Nazir who finds himself as a mitzvah as well. Discovers a nega. The Mishnah says, don't worry. It doesn't cancel the Nazirus. Get through it and start counting, resume right away. Rav Chisda. It's clear from the Mishnah that although he can resume, but you can't count those days. So let's say he was a mitzvah for 14 days, you can't apply that towards the Nazirus. Why not? Rav Chisda lo yishanu ela b'Nazirus mu'etas. That's only because he had a small, short Nazirus. Which basically means, let's say for example, it was a 30-day Nazirus. Okay? He kept 10 days, he became a mitzvah. We all know that a mitzvah must shave his hair at the end of tzaras. Right? It pushes away the Isser of Nazir. We had a whole sugi about this. Right? Psukim, right? So the problem is he has no hair left. And a Nazir should have a 30-day hair growth on his head to shave at the end of Nazirus. So that's the issue. So Nazirus mu'etas, a short Nazirus, in which case, when he interrupts it with the teglachas of tzaras, will not leave him enough time to regrow, then he has to redo 30 days. It's not because he has to redo 30 days. It's not like he's canceling. It's just that he has to have a 30-day growth to facilitate the culmination of Nazirus. Avog Nazirus Meruba, what if it's an extra long Nazirus, which allows him 30 more days after the tzaras? It was a 100-day Nazirus. He kept, 20 days. Tzaras compelled a shave. But now he has 60, 70 days left. In that case, mislak na misalkalin. Days of tzaras can count towards the Nazirus. Nothing wrong with counting it towards the Nazirus. They're not mutually exclusive. As long as you have 30 days after the teglachas tzaras for the teglachas Nazirus. That's a chiddush of Rav Chisda. So basically what he's telling us is days of tzaras can count towards Nazirus provided you have 30 days after the teglachas tzaras towards the Nazirus shave. Master of Shravya, he had a kasha from the Mishnah. After the tzaras, what does the Mishnah say? Maschel u'moyne miyad. Ve'ein mevatel b'enes hakodim. So after the tahara, you start counting right away, and doesn't nullify the previous days, the days which he counted before the tzaras. Let's analyze the wording of the Mishnah. What case is it referring to? Ilema b'Nazirus mu'etas. We're speaking about a short Nazirus, which leaves us less than 30 days after the teglachas tzaras. Kaboy gildul ser. What do you mean? You're not mavatal the koid. What do you mean you don't have to redo? You certainly do. You have to give yourself another 30 days for gildul ser. El lav Nazirus meruba. So apparently we're speaking about a long Nazirus, in which case even after the teglachas tzaras, we'll have 30 days left for the teglachas Nazirus, right? Uktani. And what does the Mishnah say? You can't count the days in which he was a mitzvah. You have to skip those days. You don't cancel the days prior to tzaras, but you can't count the days of tzaras. Uktani maschel u'moyne miyad. You start counting now. That's a kasha of Chisda. It sounds from the Mishnah, days of tzaras cannot count towards Nazirus. Who moisivla? The same Manda Amar of Shravya who presented this question, who Mefarakla provided a solution as well. Rav Chisda is right. The Mishnah is speaking about a case like this. Somewhere in between. B'Nazirus bas chamishim yom. For example, just an example, a 50-day Nazirus. The Yosef Esron. He kept 20 days before he became a mitzvah. So 20 out of 50. Technically, there are 30 days left. And he discovered a nega. Okay, so he goes through the tzaras, 7, 14, whatever, how many days it takes. Megalech tzarate. So now he does the tzaras shave. And how many days are left? So, technically speaking, he should be able to count the days of tzaras. Problem is, if he counts those days, You're not going to have 30 days left. You started with 50. You kept 20. If you add the next 14 days of Tzaras, that's already 34. It only leaves you with 16 days left. That's not enough. So in this case, you have to keep another 30 days. The Nazir. You have to wait another 30 days to allow your hair to regrow. So technically speaking, days of Tzaras can count towards Nazirus, provided you're left with ample time to regrow your hair after the taglachas of Mitzvah. So the Mishnah is speaking about a case where you're not going to have 30 days left. So here we have to start counting 30 days again after Tzaras. But in a situation where even after applying the days of Tzaras towards the Nazirus, he'll still have 30 days outstanding, 30 days in Nazirus outstanding. It's okay to count the Nazirus with Tzaras together. As long as after the Teglachat Tzaras, he has 30 days to regrow his hair. Okay, let's recap today's Dapim. We started on Daf Dalet. We had the reference to that first Mishnah, severe Tumah encounters, and Teglachas is required. It's Seiser the Nazirus. When does he restart the new Nazirus? Day 7 or day 8? The Lashon of the Mishnah was Mashma day 8, the day of Karban. The next Mishnah discussed less severe form of Tumahs, which don't require a redo. And the last stage was Yimei Zav ve'Azava, Yimei Hezgeiro Shel Matzera. Those days can count towards the Nazirus as well. We discussed Tumas Eretz Ha'amim. Two ways to look at it: Tumas oil or just a plain Tumah midrabanan. Nafkamina would be if there's a protection around the person, he's not exposed to the land below. There's no Tumas oil, but there is airspace. Other than Nafkamina would be, well, do we treat him as a Tumei Meis, Hazav Paraduma, or not? And we concluded that Rav Chizda's interpretation in the Mishnah, technically, he made Tzaras, even the made Tumah of Tzaras can count towards the Nazirus. The thing is, at the end of that Tumah, he will shave his hair for Tzaras, Teglachas Metzera. So you're okay unless you're okay provided you have 30 days outstanding past the Tzaras, which will allow a full regrowth of hair towards the Teglachas of Nazirus. Hatzlacha Rabbi too, and maybe all hair b'suras tevis. Amen.